Okay. I always love that. Hello, everybody. It tells me we're live. It's so good to see everybody alive. That's what I say. Just jamming out to some Steely Dan. Yeah. Get back, Jack. Do it again. Let's all do it again. Hey, David Castle, how you doing? Nina the Mystic, how are you, my dear? David Barry, hello, my friend. Joe Sapien, hello. There's Darth. Good to see you. Sabrina. Hello. Peace. To all the moderators, Big Al, Kent Cook. How ya? Yeah, Steely Dan. Tell you what, you know, how can you go wrong? I mean, yeah. Hey, Deborah 2X. How you doing? Bosto and favor to all of us. I hope you had a great weekend. Saturday, Sunday may have been your front of the weekend. Who knows? Let's see. Kaylee, good to see you. Robert V, how are you doing, my friend? Bosto to you. As you're out there in the great state of, is it Montana? Am I right on that? Or is it South Dakota? Lynn, Chris, good to see you. Crystal McArthur, hello. Good to see you. Bree, hello. Gilbert, good to see you. Lost in Space. I think I saw him earlier. Sail Chaos, ain't that the truth? Hello. Cat09, good to see you. Zigzagzilla, hello. How are you doing? Oh, so good to see you. Rare Breed and Jasna Freaks. Hello, how are you doing? Hard Truth and everybody else. So, hey, do you have one of these? Do you have a compass? Need one. All of us, you're really going to need one of these. I'm telling you, if you don't have one now, you need to get one. It'll be kind of like your canary in the coal mine. Yeah. Things will be jumping on this one. We actually recorded the magnetic flip that took place in 2015, June 23rd, to be specific. Only lasted for about 2.5 minutes, but yeah, for those brief 2.5 minutes, I'll pull up the chart on that. Yep. So it's heading that way, folks, and y'all got to, just have it in your accessory list. That's what I say. It's good to have and know your direction. If you got a compass, and of course, if the magnetic poles are definitely deviating, which they are, a good compass will show you. Hey, Spirit Girl, San Francisco, how are you, my dear? Lucky Stone, good to see you, my friend. Man, that I always have, I love his contemplation of thought. John Price, greetings from Abilene. Abilene. And didn't George Strait have another one? Oh, it was Amarillo. Wasn't that right? Amarillo by morning. There we go. Really like George Strait. I do. Anyway. Hey, Grandpa Brian, how you doing? Paul Joe, good to see you. I do. Tomorrow, a second look. We're going to get in with Miss Trina. We're going to get into something I touched on yesterday, and going to talk about the graduating class. So yeah, it's curious. I got lots of emails. You can go back and look at the comments. A lot of people. It's something that you don't hear taught. You never hear about the graduation, and if the 7 principles are true, which I do believe they are, if reality seems to be perceptually real, if there is, in fact, that this is life and life never ends, we'll put these bodies down, but we won't end. And if the foundation of all things, the Creator, the infinite being, the one that's above any name that can ever be named, I believe, and this is just my take, that its intent, because I think it's beyond the sexuality of differences. Just my opinion. That wants growth. The problem that I have seen in the doctrine that I came out, it wants to keep us in diapers, crapping on ourselves all the time, and like we're too incompetent to. Of course, we are basically, you do know, the third species of the baboas and the chimpanzees. Yes, Homo sapiens. People don't like to hear that, but it's true. Fact check me on it. But any case, if the foundation of reincarnation is supposed to teach something, if karma is supposed to balance out the books, then the foundation of those two constructs would be growth. Now, if growth is in fact what we're supposed to be doing, experiencing, because, you know, I asked this question. When you die, do you think you're suddenly going to get an intelligence jack? Do you think all of a sudden you're going to know everything? No. I think there's a lot of dumbass spirits. Quite frankly, I've seen a lot of dumbass spirits. They were dumbasses here and they're dumbasses over there. I don't think that all of a sudden we get, hey, Marsha Price, how you doing, my friend? Loretta 7P, Deborah Sloan. So I don't think we get this sudden Einstein enlightenment. I don't think it works that way. I think that we leave a large part of ourselves in our natural state of being, and what we experience, because remember, you are God. You're a fractal being. If you could begin to really see yourself that, then it's not so hard in the multiverse to realize that we're present, yet not here. We're somewhere else, but we're here. It's part of your infinite being. If the infinite being exists, so do you. You are an infinite being, which directly indicates that your essence, is beyond your ability to fully understand because of the density of the experience here. And I think that that's the purpose. Memories, what are the purpose of memories? Are memories supposed to teach us, or is it something that we relive? Are memories a lesson, or are they an experience? Is it one and the same? Hadley, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think you're right. She says, I think that we're all here as an experience of the person you are. Yeah. You know, that's the whole thing when you finally realize there is no heaven and there is no hell. What would you do in heaven? Get bored? And what would you do in hell? I mean, it implies that physicality in spiritual form has no difference. What was the ending chapter in the Gospel of John where Jesus says, I am not blood, flesh and blood. He said, I am spirit, I am flesh and bone. Well, that's an interesting little, let's throw in some of the Gnostic gospel in that. Yeah, let's do a little spiritualism in that one. Yeah. But so what does that mean? I mean, apparently there is another place. There are those that linger here. They seem to have the ability to take on physical form, if but for short periods of time. I think it takes a lot of energy. Anyway, so graduation. There has to be a graduating class. To say that there is not would then to say that there's nothing to be gained here. Now, some may want to say it's ascension. I don't think so. I think it's different than ascension. I mean, I really do believe that there is a physical in the ethereal realm. Remember, substance. All of us are of substance. Now faith is what? The assurance of things hoped for. The what? The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The substance. Substance becomes matter. We're all the essence, we're of a substance. So I don't think that the realities, the multiverse has any end. And I think there's a great demand for gods. Folks, you know, I was meditating today. I have these beads I use, and I've learned to really use them. They help me. It's amazing. It's, you know, those Tibetan monks, they know something. And it was a person who actually emailed me, got me on this, and it works. But I was thinking about time. We're about to read more in the Colburn, but I've been thinking about time. And all through my biblical studies and the decades I was into that, the decades now that I am free of that and now seeking knowledge, when I come to the term time in a spiritual context, I'm suspicious of the individual writer because I am lost as to what time is being referred to. What my reality of time is, as the Borg would say, we're in sector 0.000 because it's the only way that time exists. All time is predicated on Earth time. All time. Now, we've talked about this before, but I was getting into it even deeper. So in when we see the prophecy, we see these terms epochs, when we see the end of time, so what are you saying, that there's this heavenly realm that they keep a clock according to Earth time? Because that's the only thing that would make sense, the only thing I have any reference to. You're telling me time, the end of time, the end of what time? Are you saying that time is not physical, but that time is more esoterical in its construct, and that somehow that this is transmutable upon my entering into the ethereal realm, that I'm going to be somehow seeing a clock hanging just into midair, telling me that this is Earth time? And if I'm in another time of the ethereal realm, what is the foundation of its counting? I'm just asking. See how many people want to respond to that one. Because I don't know. I leave my body in astral traveling at times, and I'm not aware of time. Time ceases to exist. I'm not even rightly sure that I'm aware of time in my dreams. I never see a clock in my dreams. Do you? So if time is not relevant in dreams, travel outside into the astral realm, is time even relevant? As a god, why would you need time? I mean, if many of us are graduating, we'll be given new assignments, most likely creating new universes. Would you measure that by time? I don't know. Just something to think about. All right. Hey, listen. So, a little background as we get into the story now of the departure. We've read one version, and we're going to see another. I put this together, and someone was asking, they're enjoying what we're reading, but they said, well, where did this come from? All right, so these are made of copper from the Bronze Age. They know that. You can tell that by the copper itself. They know exactly where the copper came from. It was attempted to be burnt. The Colburn Bible is not a biblical book, but it is one of the few manuscripts about the time preceding the flood. There are some differences between the biblical accounts and the Colburn Bible, but there are also many interesting converging points. Some background, let's all keep this in, we all can remember this. The Colburn Bible is an ancient secular academic work and other wisdom texts. Much of it's accredited going back to the Phoenician traders. The whole Ball series was predicated on the Phoenicians. It's amazing how many people are so ignorant of the Phoenicians. But anyway, it is from what they call the Great Book. It's written in a heretic by the Egyptian academics after the crossing. Was never meant for the common man. The common man and slaves were never entitled to be taught, the codes. Estimated time of its writing, 1500 BC. Much of it's understood. It talks about creation, destructions, crossings, and rogue planets. I also believe we could add one more, alien beings. The crossing, Nibiru, this is where it all comes from. Many writings that it will come again. It was kind of the message in the bottle, so to speak. Now, according to the Egyptians, this is what the Hebrews look like crossing. It wasn't this millions that everyone has this Cecil B. DeMille idea about. The real one isn't nothing, and that's what we're reading. Love the D. Crossings happen many times. One of the factors that I think that we keep missing is we keep discovering new things. Something recently, a red dwarf, 12 times bigger than Jupiter, has magnetic fields about it. And it's foolish to think that we're just out in this huge void. If you want to do size comparisons, this kind of gives you some idea. Earth is Terra, although there could be something that, again, we have not kept up with, but you can see again, Earth is very, very small compared to what's out there. And if you think about Betelgeuse out there, how many masses bigger is it of our sun? 1,000 or so. So things are in our solar system. I learned you don't rely on NASA. The biggest point to rely on are amateur astronomers like myself. We have our telescopes up there when we can see the sky, but a lot of that comes. There are exploding suns happening all the time. We see them, we pick them up. What we don't seem to grasp is by having a compass, we kind of know what is north, what is south. I can't say what is what, up and down. I mean, that's because up and down is down and up. But we know the poles do flip, the geographic poles. But we also know that what flips even more frequently is the magnetic poles. We've seen this in the ancient writings. They talk about a dark star in the sky. Many people are convinced they sent us a message in the bottle. This came upon our solar system quickly. Many attribute the Great Deluge to a crossing that just happened to get even closer. And the question is debatable. What are we really talking about the same object? I don't think we are. But we know that if there was ever the geographical pole flip, it would be a very bad day on Earth. I don't think it's going to be a very good day on the magnetic side either. Throughout antiquity, we have seen the destroyer. It's talked about in many different cultures. We're just happening to read the one of the Egyptian account. From the Far East to the original people, to the Mesoamericans, they talk about this red dragon. I keep on thinking to myself, were men that ignorant? I mean, were they nomadic? I think that there were some, but I also think that there were some really smart individuals. Now, they depicted it as a dragon. What we're reading about is the depiction of what the Egyptians saw. Many people think as well that the Egyptians were also talking about the coming of the destroyer. They were relying on the ancient writings when Venus came in and whooped Mars's butt. Many theorize that Venus is really a comet, not a planet. So what are we talking about? Events of fire out of the sky. They say that it will appear suddenly. We won't even have any warning about it. And if there is warning, the masses will never know about. Now, there's another part to this story that's never really explored, and that is Tiamat. There's evidence that it was destroyed by the destroyer. Now, that lends to me that this is not a single object, but maybe potentially a remnant from the collision of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy that we are from and that of the Milky Way. I mean, remember, it's not this. We're doing that, but we're also doing this through space. It's a trail, folks. And then you've got this big, and my whole point is that we're not smart enough. We can't remember 10 years ago in accuracy. Look at what they're doing today in the council culture. Rewriting history is what they're wanting to do. And so if we can do it today as a cause for protest, rewrite history, how many times has that been done? Tiamat, the asteroid belt. Not enough teaching is done on this. The ignorance of science and academics is most academics have got assitis. Their head is so far up their ass that their fecal matter has taken over the gray matter. But the fact is that asteroid belt just didn't happen to have a collection coming through. There was a planet there. Many theorize it's where we came from. We got over here because our ancestors knew we were going to get hit by this crossing, this dragon. I think we're all hip enough to say that, well, there are laws of physics now into play that we understand. Plasma, electromagnetic energy. Now, if you're pulling a trash pile, a dump behind you, well, that could be a bad day for other more stationary objects. And one of the things that is we're going to read, and we'll stop right here on this, is that we never took into account, even 10 years ago, on this subject about dynamics like micro electromagnetic fields, the exchange of plasma. We're seeing freak lightning storms all around the planet. They're going to get worse, folks. Much, 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 much worse. Go back, fact check me on this. Go and look at the last 90 days in India. When you start seeing thousands of people dead by being electrocuted by lightning. And folks, the lightning is not so much from the sky as it is coming up from the earth. In one village, I think it was over 1,000 people died because of the lightning storm. They said that the lightning was going off about every second. More lightning, bam, 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 and did not let up. I don't care who you are. That's a bad day to be on planet Earth. Give me 1 second here, folks. Oh, and let me just say this. We have the writings, the warnings. So I understand San Francisco experienced a freak lightning storm. We're going to be seeing them. The purple lightning that is showing up more and more. The earth is changing. Now, is this indicative of something? Our star, I mean, it very well could be that what we're reading about again as part of the spiral in our galaxy, the galactic sheet that is headed this way. Most estimates are within the next 50 years, maybe 100. And academic debate as to exactly what is our sun going to do. If what we're seeing happening to Pluto is anything that might be in store for us on Earth, to lose 20% of our atmosphere, folks, that's a violent encounter. And I don't know what that would do to the Earth. I don't. But it's happening to Pluto. Will it be happening to Uranus, Neptune, Saturn? And when that galactic sheet hits our sun, are we going to see an Elia event? Are we going to witness something that we're going to pick up here? So let's pick up right where we left off. Actually, I backed this up a little bit because this was something that the question has to be asked, is the destroyer under intelligent design or is it under natural design? In other words, it's the destroyer, the Doomslayer. Is this a ship? Is this a planet? Is this something in between? What we do know is that it was killing people, particularly in this region of the world, by the tens of thousands. Mass death everywhere. There were 9 days of darkness and upheaval. While a tempest raged such as never before been known, and when it passed away, brother buried brother throughout the land. So I think we're seeing multiple events happening in this period of time. And that's a freaky deal. I mean, no sooner do you finish cleaning up yourself because you just crapped all over yourself by what happened, and you think that it's time that it's past, and bam, baby, you get hit again. It said Egypt lacked great men to deal with it. Could you imagine our leaders today dealing with something like this? Holy crap. No, they'd be leaving us. So you had a civilization who was shell-shocked. Now you got a group of people over here saying, well, this is our God. He's doing it to you. Well, okay. These people here, I think by this point, they didn't give a shit. If you want to claim that murderous, whatever it is, as your God, wrote your 10 Commandments eventually, put your Jesus on the stick eventually. This is the same God they're talking about right here. So this God has already killed tens of thousands, most likely hundreds of thousands of innocent souls. It says the slaves spared by the destroyer left the accursed land forthwith. So let's just stop right there a second. Is that intelligent design? It's giving personality, personification. Humans are an ethnic group to this destroyer. Wow. That is the foundation of all Judeo-Christian Islamic beliefs. Wow. Their multitude moved in gloom of a half dawn under a mantle of fine swirling gray ash. We have ash now falling all through our area here in the Front Range because of the fires. So it's got ash, leaving the burnt fields and shattered cities behind them. This is either atomic weaponry, and that's what I'm contending it is. I'm contending it's no freaking planet, no Nibiru. This is technology. And I'm sure if they had the ability to read a Geiger counter, if they even had the technology, they would have seen the damn thing was off the scale. Many Egyptians attached themselves to the slaves, for the one was great led them forth, a priest prince of the inner courtyard. So we got a traitor leading them. As far as the Egyptians, the house of Pharaoh was concerned, this was one of his own. Stole the secrets of the pharaohs. Some contend that this thief, who was later to be known as Moses, who later by Yahweh, the Elohim, said Moses was God. Read the Bible. So now we have a prince, a priest, who is being declared by this destroyer as God. So who's really doing the conjuring here? Fire mounted up on high, and it's burning left with the enemies in Egypt. Fire mounted up on high. So that means levitation. What the hell is being levitated here? A ship? A fleet of ships? And it's burning left with the enemies. Radiation? Nuclear weaponry? It rose up from the ground as a fountain and hung as a curtain in the sky. So, I mean, seriously, if you have atomics, I think that's what they called them in the book, in the movie Dune. We know that the Hindus give us, and the Chinese give us, a very accurate account of beings using light weaponry, lasers, atomic weapons. It changes the story now if this is in fact under intelligent design. In 7 days, by Rimwar, the accused ones journeyed to the waters. They crossed the heaving wilderness. So there is earthquakes taking place, undulation. My great-great-grandmother lived through the San Francisco 1906 earthquake. And in her diary, she wrote, she was on a farm, that the land was literally going up and down. She could see the cows moving up and down. They crossed the heaving wilderness while the hills melted around them. Folks, if there was vulcanization taking place in Egypt, we would have the evidence. We don't. What we do have is evidence of molten glass in the desert. You can only get molten glass by extreme high heat. Above, the skies were torn with lightning. They were sped by terror, but their feet became entangled in the land, and the wilderness shut them in. They knew not the way, for no sign was constant before them. Kind of goes a little bit against the story of Charlton Heston, huh? They turned before Nashari and stopped at Shukoth, the place of quarries. Well, now you give some idea where that rock for all those monuments came from. They passed the waters of Maha and came by the valley of Pikaroth, north of Mara. They came up against the waters which blocked their way, and their hearts were in despair. The night was a night of fear, dread, for there was a high moaning above, and black winds from the underworld were loosened. I've been thinking about this moaning sound. This is what many people report of UFOs. I think the more and more that we could read this from a certain perspective, this sounds like an alien invasion or a presence. The hearts of the slaves shrank within them, for they knew the wrath of Pharaoh followed them, and there was no way for their escape. They hurled abuses on those who led them. Strange rites were performed along the shore that night. The slaves disputed among themselves, and there was violence. So there's no unification of Moses here. There's no unification of Yahweh here. Yahweh's up in the freaking spaceship committing mass genocide. This gets weird. Think about the implications of this going forward. After Pharaoh had gathered his army and followed the slaves, we read this, and he departed. There were riots, disorder behind him, for the cities were plundered. This is a civilization collapse. This is exactly what's taking place. The storehouses, the granaries were gone. The roads were flooded. So here we get something new. Just prior to this, we were seeing fire coming up and into the heavens, lightnings, burnt ash. Now we're dealing with floods. None could pass along them. People lay dead on every side. The palace was split. The princes and officials fled. All right, for the palace to be split, folks, that has to be a photon weapon of some kind. Don't think that that is just a haphazard word. It was split. They were having a field day in those ships. Talk about War of the Worlds. That's probably exactly what was happening. The list of numbers were destroyed. The public places were overthrown. The households became confused and unknown. And then we read that the fact that Pharaoh was, the man had to be grieving inside. We never hear of Pharaoh's account, do we? That's the problem with religion. It's so bigoted, you only get one side of the story. And I don't like their story. I don't like their God. It's a killing son of a bitch. And that's exactly my belief. He said before him were things he could not understand. He was afraid. I bet he was. But the man had integrity, unlike the slaves and the betrayal of his own son. See, we don't look at Moses as the son of Pharaoh, but he was. So this son betrayed his father to another god, or one that he conjured in. He could not understand. He carried himself well and stood before his host with courage. He sought to bring back the slaves, for the people said their magic was greater than the magic of Egypt. Key words here. The host of Pharaoh came upon the slaves by the seawater shore, but was held back from them by a breath of fire. It's a laser, folks. And you're getting caught in it. Different intensities of light. A great cloud was spread over the host and darkened the sky. No one could see except for the fiery glow and unceasing lightning which rent the covering cloud overhead. This is electromagnetic energy that's being exchanged here. What's the catalyst? This isn't just happening. Laws of physics cannot be broken by no God, at least none that claims Earth. It's technology, folks. A whirlwind arose in the east and swept over the encamped host. This is nothing but the weather wars. Listen, if you've got weaponry that can rip the ground open and begin to cascading fire in the sky, doing other things by creating low pressures in a high pressure zone, ain't no big deal. The gale raged all night, and in the red twilight dawn, there was a movement of the earth. The waters receded from the seashore and were rolled back on themselves. So others felt this movement. The earth. When Japan, with Fukushima, the earth moved. In that case, more than inches. In Indonesia, the tsunami, 2005, I believe, the earth moved. There was a strange silence. And then in the gloom, it was seen that the waters had parted, leaving a passage between. The land had risen, but it was disturbed and trembled. The way was not straight or clear. The waters were about as if spun within a bowl, and a swampland alone remained undisturbed. You see, this tells me technology. No freaking miracle. No dude standing up there with his staff saying, the water shall part when I point my staff. Now, can I have my cigar, please? No. This is technology. Obviously, alien technology. Okay, let's continue. From the horn of the destroyer came a high, shrilling noise which stopped the ears of men. How many of you seen the remake with Tom Cruise of War of the Worlds? What did the machines do before they attacked, before they grouped? They made a sound that you could not bear. Many abductions report the same thing. A shrilling pitching noise that blacked them out. That can happen, folks. The slaves have been making sacrifices in despair. What were they sacrificing, ladies and gentlemen? Their lamentations were loud. Now before the strange sight, there was hesitation and doubt. For the space of a breath, they stood still and silent. Then all was confusion and shouting, some pressing forward into the waters against those who sought to flee back from the unstable ground. So, this idea that this passage was open and hell, it was a paved highway for them. Apparently, I mean, that's so far from the truth, because again, I bet you there were ships up there. And I don't think that I think we'll eventually figure it out if we haven't already. In exaltation, their leader led them into the midst of the water through the confusion. Yet many sought to turn back into the host behind them, while others fled along the empty shores. All became still over the sea and upon the shore. But behind, the earth shook and boulders split with a great noise. So we know sound. Dolphins use sound. All marine life uses sound. Sonar. We know that noise concentrated can split boulders. I bet you it can split water as well. Excuse me. The wrath of heaven was removed to a distance and stood upwards of the two hosts. Whoa. The wrath of heaven, so this is a ship, was removed to a distance and stood upwards of the two hosts. I wonder if that ship had antenna arrays with their sonic weapon that they're using in which to split the sea. Not an ocean, it's a sea. And we know that you drain portions of, the shoreline, the ground sucks, man. It stinks. I mean, to walk through it, I wouldn't want to do it. But it stood up between the two hosts. Interesting verbiage. Still, the host of Pharaoh held its ranks, firm in resolve before the strange and awful happenings, and undaunted by the fury which raged by their sides. Stern faces were lit darkly by the fiery curtain. Lots of technology being deployed here, folks. Then the fury departed, and there was silence. Stillness spread over the land while the host of Pharaoh stood without movement in the red glow. Then, with a shout, the captains went forward, and the host rose up behind them. The curtain of fire had rolled up into a dark, billowing cloud. Rolled up. That's technology, folks. That's, we would call it today, post Star Wars and Star Trek, that was a force field. Seriously. There was a stirring of the waters, but they followed the evildoers past the place of the great whirlpool. The passage was confused in the midst of the waters, and the ground beneath unstable. Again, it's still undulating. Here, in the midst of tumult of waters, Pharaoh fought against the hindmost of the slaves and prevailed over them. And then there was a great slaughter amid the sand and the swamp and the water. The slaves cried out in despair, but their cries were unheeded. Many of us have been led to believe for decades and decades, all of our lives, that Jehovah, Yahweh, got everyone across. No, it's no God. Technology. Great slaughter. As though there isn't already enough death, now we have even more. Their possessions were scattered behind them as they fled, so that the way was easier for them than for those who followed. Then the stillness was broken by a mighty roar, and through the rolling pillars of clouds, the wrath of the destroyer descended upon the host. That is intelligent design. That ain't no freaking planet. That's not Nibiru. That's not Planet X. This is a ship. A fleet of them, I may say. It descended upon the host. So, I mean, are you just telling me that, there's this big rock up there and all of a sudden it decides that I want to grow some eyes and, oh, well, there. And here it comes taking a Yui. No. The heavens roared as with 1,000 thunders, and the bowels of the earth was sundered, split open, and earth shrieked in agony. This is weaponry. Be close to, I guess, Independence Day. The cliffs were torn away and cast down. The dry ground fell beneath the waters, and the great waves broke upon the shore, sweeping in rocks from seaweed. Well, it would be natural. I mean, if you're using artificial means by holding back, manipulating water, and what else, who knows? Yeah. The great surge of rocks and water overwhelmed the chariots of the Egyptians, who went before the footmen. The chariot of Pharaoh was hurled into the air as if by a mighty hand and was crushed in the midst of the rolling waters. The tidings of the disaster came back by Regib, son of Tomat, who hastened on ahead on the terrified survivors because of his burning. He brought reports unto the people that the host had been destroyed by a blast and deluge. A blast and deluge. This is weaponry, folks. That's all this is. Tiding of the He brought reports upon the people that the host had been destroyed by the captains had gone, the strong men had fallen, and none remained to command. Therefore the people revolted because of the calamities which had befallen them. Cowards slunk from their lairs and came forth boldly to assume high office of the dead. Always the cowards do that. Comely and noble women, their protectors gone, were their prey. Of the slaves, the greater number had perished before the host of Pharaoh. The broken land lay helpless. The invaders came out of the gloom like carrion. A strange people came up against Egypt, and none stood to fight, for strength and courage were gone. The invaders, led by the Eclanan, came up out of the land of gods because of the wrath of heaven, which had laid their land waste. There too had been a plague of reptiles and ants, signs and omens, and earthquakes. There also had been turmoil and disaster, disorder and famine, with the gray breath of the destroyer sweeping the ground and stopping the breath of men. This is ships, folks. And Turah gathered together the remnants of his fighting men and the fighting men who had left in Egypt, and set forth to meet the children of darkness who came out of the eastern mountains by the way of the wilderness and by way of the Euphrates. They fell upon the stricken land from behind the gray cloud, before the lifting of the darkness and before the coming of the purifying winds. The children of darkness. Regeb went with the Pharaoh and met the invaders at Hishor, but the hearts of the Egyptians were faint within them. Their spirits were no longer strong, and they fell away before the battle was lost. Deserted by gods above and below, their dwellings destroyed, their households scattered, they were as men already half dead. Their hearts were still filled with terror and with the memory of the wrath which had struck them from out of the heaven. They were still filled with the memory of the fearsome sight of the destroyer, and they knew not what they did. Pharaoh did not return to his city. He lost his heritage and was seized by a demon for many days. His women were polluted, his estates plundered. The children of darkness defiled the temples with rams and ravished women who were crazed and did not resist. They enslaved all who were left, the old, the young men and boys. They oppressed the people, and their delight was in the mutilation and torture. Pharaoh abandoned his hope and fled into the wilderness beyond the province of the lake, which is in the west towards the south. He lived a goodly life among the sand wanderers and wrote books. Good times came again, even under the invaders, and the ships sailed upstream. The air was purified, and the breath of the destroyer passed away, and the land became filled again with growing things. Life renewed throughout the whole land. Carr taught these things to the children of light in the days of darkness after the rebuilding of the Ramaluth before the death of Pharaoh Akhnid. This is written in this land and in our tongue by Ledwater, who himself chose it for saying, it was not seen until the latter days. So there we go. A whole different story of the passing. Now, I have, and I'm going to get this, there were two Swedes, and I think this was about 20 years ago, who snuck into Saudi Arabia, the Forbidden Zone, where Mount Sinai is. And what they discovered was quite remarkable. They showed the top of Mount Sinai was burnt. Radiation. They found ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. As the Hebrews, remember, they were taught Egyptian. They were there for nearly 500 years. They were as much Egyptian than they were Jewish. And there weren't many of them. So this spaceship, many have theorized that the Ark of the Covenant was nothing more than an energy source. And if you got too close to it, the damn thing would kill you. Radiation sickness. I did the video on the Kivov of Moses. The Kivov is a spaceship. It literally came down, huge, by the way. I think Stargate 1 did the best job in showing the Gulag how their ships looked like pyramids, and they were huge, as big as the pyramids. So there we go. I got it all in too. We're going to pick up on this because there's more to this story. This story here is one that seldom is ever spoken about. I mean, the Egyptians got their ass kicked by something that came out of the heavens that was under intelligent design, using technology that they had never seen before. And the Egyptians had technology. They knew some stuff. We still can't figure out how they built the pyramids, but you know, and why? The first Pharaoh, Akhenaten, it was said that it wasn't human. It was of an alien design. So obviously they abandoned the Egyptians, because if you want to take the story, then this would be Yahweh, the Elohim. It's how they travel. Now, if you really want to take this back and really peel the onion back, it very well could have been Enlil. Maybe Enki, I don't know. Some theorize that Yahweh may very well be parading himself, and he is, in fact, Enki. Although I think he's got more of the demeanor of Enlil. I could be wrong. Okay, folks. This is cool stuff. I mean, now I don't know. I mean, is there a body out there? Is there nemesis out there? Something's coming, folks. I just don't think that, I don't know what it is. Do I think that Stitchin was wrong? I don't know. He had his own agenda. I think that when you start getting dates, it gets real complicated because we don't even know what year it is. So how could you say, well, it was 3,600 years ago? That would put it in the year, that's why I left that community, because everyone was getting so hung up on dates. When I was sitting back and saying, none of you guys know what dates are. We don't know what the date is. How can you say it's coming in 2016? How can you say, Perry Stone, that it's coming in 2032? No one knows. The best we can do is what the Egyptian told us to do. Stay alert. But they said we would become lackadaisical. We would ignore all this because we're so high and mighty in our technology. We got satellites up there and we got ships going back into the moon, and yeah. But something stripped Mars. Something is happening to Pluto. Our sun is about to awaken. Solar cycle 25 is coming in. We got there's a CME heading towards Earth. The first little sunspot. Who'd have thought? And the son of a bitch fired right at us. Boom! It's a small one. But, with our magnetosphere down by 20%, the small ones can sometimes do some stuff. All right. I love this stuff. And thank y'all for tuning in. This is just cool stuff. And I think we ought to talk about it more. I mean, it's all part of the process. I contend if we get good enough, we're going to get into experiment 2. And by the way, folks, just to let you know, that last experiment was the last time we got any rain here. That's how well it worked. Now, I'm telling you that if we saw something in the heavens coming to us, I wonder if our collective consciousness could manifest a little bump. I don't know. All righty. All I know is that I don't want to be any of those bloody Egyptians. I mean, I don't think that was a fun time. You couldn't get stoned enough, to get out of that state of consciousness. I mean, holy crap. I mean, bummer summer. Now, isn't it interesting, by the way, and as pointed out before I leave here, that the people from the west, the southwest, who came up to where Pharaoh was at, they got hit, but they didn't get hit as hard. So again, this was extremely localized. Unless they got funny looking asteroids up there and other stuff, how else did that happen? I don't know. Thank you. Is that Ashlyn? Thank you. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the journey. It is an honor to be here with you. And thank you, moderators and everyone that tune in. Let me know what you think, and we'll continue down this rabbit trail. All right. Peace out.